All right. Let's, guys, I just want to, oh, I'm not supposed to say guys. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for doing this. This is really, I'm so excited. And I think we've got such a great group. And this year, we're using a lot more clubs than we used last year, which was my first year. And I know in the past, the championships have been bigger, but this is my first experience with them being kind of this size. So I'm really happy. I can't wait to meet some people in person that I've seen emails from and put some faces to some names. So I really do appreciate you guys. And I want to let you know during this is really, I just kind of wanted to go over some of my philosophy about championships and then some of the processes and procedures. There are people on this call that have done this a lot more than I have. So I have asked them to pipe in, jump in, give advice, anything that I miss that would help somebody else run a site. So this is pretty informal. Feel free to ask questions, any of that kind of stuff. So I wanted to start off, I did send a Showpad link today that has a draft of what we're working on for the handbook. I've crossed out a lot of stuff, but the information on calling matches and procedures and some of those things is really good and really accurate. So you guys can refer to that. That link stays live. So what happens is I update the handbook and I put a new one on that link. That link will always have the most updated handbook. You can still download it, but once you download it, then it might not. I'll tell you guys if I update it, it's not going to be before this weekend. I'll tell you that. So this is my second year running championships, and part of my philosophy has been, some of it just to have good play and get people pushed on to sectionals and nationals. But more than that, it's to really give the players an experience that is a little bit different from their regular week-to-week league play, where they can meet other people and see other players from other states and just really have a good time and enjoy themselves. We don't do banquets anymore. I know that's still comes up. Those probably will never come back. That is the board has cut that budget line, so there's not going to be banquets. So what we're trying to do is find some other ways to make our championships more event-like, even though we're not doing banquets at all. Now this one, because of the number of teams, because of the way we had to schedule, the schedules are pretty packed, so we don't have time for a lot of after parties. But typically what I try to do is have the last matches go out around 4:30 or 5, so the teams can still go out afterwards. In some cases that was possible, and in some it was not. So we did pull in a few extra clubs so that we could kind of loosen up the schedules. I want to make sure the staff has extra time and has time to get to places and is not exhausted. It is a long weekend, so I was trying to do my best to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of a break instead of working from 7 in the morning till midnight and then starting all over the next day. So that's my a little bit of my philosophy on championships, and I'm just going to kind of jump right in. I may be a little bit all over the place, but there are a couple of office items that I want to cover. This year, we have moved for expenses. We have moved to an electronic app. It's called SAP Concur. And our office staff wants everybody that has mileage and everybody that buys lunch, has any kind of expenses, to go through that Concur system. So what'll happen is Tara Foynes, it's Foynes, will be sending you guys an email that is an invitation to sign up for SAP Concur. They don't take any of your banking information. It's none of that. It simply is, this is the mileage, this is the receipts, and then it sends to me. When she gets that done, I will make sure that you guys get set up in it and kind of go through it. Once you do it once or twice, it's really easy, but no more paper Excel spreadsheets, taping receipts to the individual piece of paper and going from there. So look out for that. Maybe I'll ask her tomorrow when she's going to send them out, and let you know. And that way, if you didn't get it, you can check your spam, or maybe we'll resend it, make sure that everybody gets it so that expenses can get done on that. This weekend, we may have some heat issues. So you guys know USTA National does not have any official statement on heat and indoor facilities. They don't give us a lot of guidance, and they really leave it up to the sections to make decisions. So we've run them. It's been pretty hot when we've run them before. The biggest problem since I've started has been a little bit of slipperiness on the courts. But unless there's a really extreme issue, we are not going to stop play or shorten sets or go to short sets. I don't mind if the players, if it does get hot and you guys as site directors really feel like it's starting to take a toll, if you allow them a little extra time on odd number games when they do switchovers, a little bit of extra time between sets. Just use your judgment on that, because I do know people can kind of take advantage, but it is going to be hot. So just be careful. I did put a document in the show pad link that has a heat related illness kind of graphic. I just pulled it off of the internet that tells the difference between heat exhaustion and a heat stroke. And so you guys can refer to that and make a best judgment. If you happen to need to call 911, please do. If you need to call 911, please call 911. So you can always call and talk to me, or talk to one of the more experienced site directors as well, tournament directors, if you have questions about it. Make sure the players have plenty of water. Make sure they take their water out on court. And then at each site, you guys should have cases of balls. You guys should have boxes that have player gifts. The player gifts this year are towels, and they're hand towels, so they're 18 by 24. There's the hand towel size, and you should have enough for everybody on your team's rosters. So if there are 13 players on the roster, they get 13. We only have it up to 20. So if they have 29 players on their roster, they only get 20. 20 is the max. At the end, if for some reason you have plenty of towels left over and somebody wants more, I don't want them to come back to the office. So give away the towels. The towels can go as long as everybody gets what they enough for their teams. The towels can then go. The district winner prizes are also at your locations. They are bag tags. They're round. I don't have one in front of me. This year we did prizes for the winning flight and the runner-up in the flight. So there's champion and there's finalists. So make sure that they're separated. There's enough for 15 for each team. And then again, if you have a couple of teams that have smaller rosters and some with bigger, you can use your judgment on giving away the rest for the champions or the finalists that need some more. So those are there. You have your binders that have the rosters in them. They have the envelopes that have the blank lineup cards in them to give to the captains. And then you also have a set of blank lineups in case something happens and somebody needs a new one. There's an extra copy for you guys at the desk. You guys should have sight boxes that have pens, that has tape, a little bit of everything that you might need at a tournament desk to help run it. Trying to think what else you guys should have there. I think that's it. Okay. I was also asked by our marketing department for anybody who takes pictures during the championship on any of the days before they start, anything that's fun, if you would direct message them through Instagram to the New England Instagram. And I will send everybody the New England Instagram. If not, I will also send you James's email address and we can email them to James or we can text them to James and go that way. I know not everybody's on Instagram, but I have been trying to get the league in general, but the league championships more on our social media and more out there, more than just this team won and this team came in second. Just what are the stories behind the teams? And this captain is captain for 20 years, which probably are some of you guys. We want to know the stories and about the relationships and why do people play league other than the competition. So just any of those pictures. I do have some, I do have Dropboxes, I'm sorry, Google Drives for photos as well. So I will try to get that information to you guys too. So again, that's not super priority, but just something to think about. So that's kind of an overview. Does anybody have any questions about overview before we get into in the weeds?
I have a question. I don't know if this is weeds or overview, so you'll forgive me.
Go right ahead.
Because you talked about the heat. If players want to take water every game instead of at crossovers, can they just determine that on their own?
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit at the captain's meeting. They have 25 seconds, and 25 seconds really is plenty of time to walk over, grab a drink, and go back on the court. We don't want them going over and sitting down and having a full 90-second in between every game, but I don't mind. Yeah, getting a drink every time is fine. And if it becomes egregious and you feel like it's gamesmanship, you can put an end to it. But if somebody really is having, needing some drinks, then they can stop in between.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know that's one of those where I think the players want a definite black or white answer on it, and it's such not a black or white answer. So,
well, hopefully they'll be friendly enough, a nice vibe that they'll be cooperative with each other, not get into a tat or, an altercation over it. And
yes.
that's what you hope.
Yeah, each site will have different, whether or not they sell waters or Gatorades. We have been telling the captains and the players to bring their own stuff, bring their own snacks, bring their own waters, bring their own food. Some of our clubs are still in a little bit of a COVID protocol-esque and not selling things, and some are not. So that's a club to club issue. We as a tournament are not providing any drinks or food.
People can always do Uber Eats or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I know that some of the clubs have tried to do food in the past, but I think we're not on that. So, Marianne, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I did. You mentioned that there are 15 bag tags for both the champion and the finalist. If the question comes up, if there's ability to purchase more, if they've got a larger roster, do they have that option if they go to you to get them?
If you will keep a tally and an address, I have plenty. Okay. I have a lot at the office, so I can mail them out. I just need to know how many.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Janet.
I had a question. Last year, the site director turned in all the receipts for lunch and gas, but you want us to do it individually this year?
So if the site, so it can go either way. I'll let you guys at each site determine.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have the ability for everybody to do the Concur app, so it's not a problem for us. But typically, the site director is the one that takes the hit on buying lunch and those kind of things. So, yeah, and if we have any questions afterwards too, we can get together with Tara. I want to make sure everybody's taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we'll get a little. I'm going to just go kind of down through the handbook, and so feel free to stop me if you guys need to. Most of the places we were able to either get or send you guys tournament T-shirts that say USTA championships on them, and if we didn't get those to you, or if you have somebody that you pulled in last minute, just anything that has USTA on it, anything that, you know, that looks nice. We're not going to be super crazy about how everybody's dressing. Also, we did send lanyards and badges, so everybody can have one. I think, I don't remember how many we sent, but you can write in your name in Sharpie. You can keep it. They're bright yellow, so everybody will know you guys are the staff, and you'll be able to stand out that way as well. Let's see, recording any issues that arise at the events. If you guys, oh, so this is something new that we're doing kind of as a side. We're trying to work, we're kind of trying to crowdsource some information about captains and how to better support them. So each site is going to get a, it's a flyer and one of the stand-up plastic frames, and it has a QR code on it. And we're just, if you could get the captains to scan it, and then that goes to, it'll take them to a link where they can put in ideas on what we can do to help better support them. So that's one of the ways that we're going to start taking comments by players. If you guys hear something, overhear something, if they tell you something, please jot it down or shoot me a text or shoot me an email so that we can archive it, so that we can keep it. We do send out a survey, but we haven't had a lot of luck with people sending surveys back. Sometimes the tournament desk actually gets more information just by overhearing captains than anything. So please feel free to share all of those things with me so that we can continue to improve what we do. Any medical situations, please document. I do not know each individual club's policy for medical issues, but there should be a staff member around at each club. So if something drastic does happen, you can grab a hold of them and let them know so that they can document it for their club as well. All of the clubs have an insurance binder through USTA, so the insurance is covered by us. You guys know defaults, team withdrawals, NTRP questions, grievances, all those things, just keep a record of. So, okay. We did player gifts. All right, so when you guys, I'm just going to go over kind of the procedures for when everybody checks in. We are having the players check in 45 minutes early, like they always do for the first match. What we told them on the captain's meeting for the very first match of the day, so that 8 o'clock, or that it's not always 8 o'clock on Fridays, but that first match of the day, to come in, be early. We try to get everybody out so that there's 10 minutes. So there's 10 minutes to the hour, to the half hour, so that they can start on time. That being said, we also told them they still need to be there half an hour early with their shoes on, ready to go. And then they know to turn in their lineups 30 minutes early. We do seem to have a lot of new people, a lot of new captains this year that have not been in championships. So what I have been telling them when they've emailed me is to make sure they tell their site directors that they're brand new and maybe need a little bit of extra help on procedures and policies, and just a little bit more hand holding than some of the more seasoned captains. So you'll give them their towels, you'll give them their lineup cards, all the lineup cards. They should have 3 in there, 2, 3, or 4, depending on how many matches they're going to have, and let them know that they've got to turn it in with 30 minutes prior to their scheduled match. Please remind them to write neatly, and please remind them to use the player's full name, the name that they have in Tennis Link, no nicknames, because our rosters come directly off of what is in Tennis Link. So if it's if they have Bob but there's Robert in Tennis Link, then we have to question, have to ask the questions of them.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Once they turn in a roster, is there at any point that they can pull it back and make a change?
They can make a change as long as it is more than 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. At the 30-minute mark, no changes.
Okay. And the only way it can change is if there's an injury during warm-up.
During warm-up. Yep.
Okay.
The change would be only just put in a new player in the injured player spot. That's it,
Okay.
right?
That's
No
correct.
change in the entire line.
Yeah, no change in the entire lineup.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that with the lineup cards, I don't usually take a lineup card from a captain unless all their players are present. So if somebody's trying to give you a card, their score sheet early, it's 45 minutes before, I always ask them, are all your players here? And if not, I always tell them to wait, make sure their players are all here. Because when you start making changes to those cards, there's not a lot of room on them, and it can get pretty hard to read. So it can get confusing. So that might be something that you might want to think about doing.
Yes, and chaotic, I would think a little bit too. When they give you the lineup card, depending on how busy it is at the desk, you want to make sure and flip it over upside down. You don't want any of the other teams looking at the lineups, because that could alter what they do for their lineup. So as soon as the captain hands it to you, flip it over, make sure it's upside down. Then one person will be designated to check the roster, and you guys can decide who's going to do that. And what you'll do is you'll check the lineup card that they give you against the roster list that's going to be in the 3-ring binder. You're checking to make sure that the player is eligible, has played enough matches to be eligible. And when you look at the rosters, the players who are not eligible are grayed out in kind of a dark gray. So you'll know immediately who's not eligible and who is eligible. You also want to make sure that the NTRP value is at or below the NTRP of the scheduled match. When you have verified that for the player, you put a check mark on the roster sheet for when the player plays, just so that you know that you've checked that. Also on the lineup card, this is all written down, I promise. On the lineup card, you also want to write their NTRP level beside their name, just as a second reminder. All right, so once you've verified all the lineup for both teams for the match, make sure the match numbers on the lineup cards are the same, because sometimes we put them in order in the envelope, but if they pull the match for Sunday and it's Friday, the match number is not going to be right. So the match numbers need to be the same on both halves, and then flip it over, tape it on the back to make it one piece of paper, and leave it flipped upside down until you're ready to call the matches. Did I miss anything for that? You guys that have done this for all these years? Got it? Okay.
Christy,
Yeah.
sometimes people tend to write nicknames. So
Mhm.
please use the names as they are on our Tennis Link
Yes.
roster.
Choose the roster name on Tennis Link. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And also that also makes a difference too when you're checking IDs. If they have a nickname in their ID, their full name is on their ID, that can cause, I mean, we just have to verify. So they need to know to put the full name. I think a couple people have raised their hand that I missed. So go ahead and just pop in.
Oh, hi, this is Laura Boysen. This will be my first, sorry.
Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, sorry. My first time volunteering. Wanted to double check about the rosters and matching the match numbers and making sure those, in addition to the match number on the paper, will there also be a day and date on,
Yes.
on the paper? Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
And date and time. Yep, date and time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty complete. The one thing, Christy mentioned about putting the level on the scorecard. Well, I think it's good for your reference. It's probably less critical here. So if you didn't do it, that's not a problem, because typically you do that with combined rating leagues. You're going to make sure the combined rating is a legal combination. So just to make it a little bit easier. Yeah.
Where am I? You go. Pete, I couldn't remember. I didn't check the roster. The people that played with early start ratings, some of the people's ratings changed. Are they grayed out or we just have to
What
keep an eye on
happens
those?
is the local league coordinator is supposed to update the roster with any ratings that need to be updated. So
Okay.
what is on that roster is the rating that you should be using to validate. And, you know, if there's a problem, you know, we've got to highlight it and check in Tennis Link to see what their current rating is, you know, but, you know, occasionally, you know, at these championships where they played an early start league, their rating came down, they had a new rating, and for some reason it didn't get updated. So you have to check it. But once again, that's why you're checking the scorecards before they actually go out on the court.
Christy, there've been a couple chats just to let everyone know to check their spam. Some people have already received the SAP Concur, the Concur app in their emails.
Oh, good, thank you.
So that's been in the chat.
John, did you have something too?
I did. I was just gonna go. So for the timing of putting out the matches, for example, I want to say my match when I was at sectionals at 3 o'clock. I basically told my team you got to be there by 2:30 because you can be called between 2:30 and 3. Is that the same for districts? Effectively, like we ended up going on at 2:45.
Yes. Yes.
So and if there's courts, so if the courts open up, I mean, I guess we're 6 courts where we've kind of had that one gap. We want to use, if the first team is there and they're available, we can do it in a half hour, put them on, just kind of roll through them. Kind of what we do with juniors. In other words, like the match is at 3, but there's a court that's open at 2:45, put out for singles first, then next court, put out second singles, third court, you know what I mean? Go through the order just as courts open up. Okay.
Yeah, and most everybody has gaps in courts here and there. That's part of the what I've tried to do to keep things on time. We also, in most cases, have put an hour and 45 minutes between matches, or we have an hour and a half between matches, and either a couple of 15-minute breaks. I think Charlie did in a couple of places, or a 30-minute break at lunch, at the lunchtime hour, because one of the pieces of feedback we have gotten from captains is that the on-time piece has been really helpful, and they don't mind early. They get really cranky when it's late. So anything you can do to get them out early and get them going, that's very helpful.
Okay.
I have a question. How much time do teams have to get on court if we call them and they're not there?
So if you call them and they are not there, and it's listed in the handbook, it actually has it written down, so you don't have to remember all of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm just curious. Yeah. Sorry.
So it starts at 0:01. They'll start with loss of toss in a game. I'm looking for it so they don't tell you.
There's a whole set of rules.
It's a total of 15 minutes they're defaulted.
And at 10 minutes, they can go out and lose a game or whatever the deal
3
is.
games,
Okay.
I think it is.
Okay. All right. I'll look at it. Thank you.
Yeah. And that being said, we typically call 1 singles, 2 singles, 1 doubles, 2 doubles, 3 doubles. If a player isn't there, like say the 1 singles player isn't there, go ahead and put out 2 singles, 1 doubles, 2 doubles, 3 doubles, come back to 1 singles, give them a little extra time, but we don't want to give any preferential treatment to anybody. So it's up to site directors' discretion on that order of putting them out if there's some kind of an issue. So, but once they're called that last time, the clock starts and they're in the world of defaulting. So, yeah.
That was the other thing. If that happens, do we have to kind of go? So hopefully it doesn't. But if, again, the no default rule, it's basically if, say, 1 line defaults, that means they have to default it through the entire series, correct? Like you would have to take out. Okay.
That's correct. So that would default through the entire round robin, whether anything that they previously have played will be reversed 6-0-6-0 for the other team, and anything they are scheduled to play in the future would not be played. So if that happens and you guys need somebody to explain it to a captain, if a captain's really upset, please feel free to call me and I will talk them through it, because this is it's hard for them, some of the captains, to understand sometimes the mathematical advantage it gives to another team if that team gets a default at 6-0-6-0.
Wow.
So now, once the round robin is over, if they still make it into a playoff for on Sunday, everything's reset. They can have all 5 lines again. Okay, so calling a match. So they turn in their lineups 30 minutes early. It's always helpful to have somebody that's designated as a spotter near that when you think matches are starting to wrap up, so that you can tell them teams are coming off court, and you can start to send new teams out. And that can be somebody at the tournament desk. It can even be a player or a captain that happens to be kind of hanging out. Everybody seems to be really good about that because everybody does want to keep on time. Just kind of keep an eye on the courts that are starting to become open. So what you're going to do is you're going to call them. So say you're going to say Trumbull versus New Hampshire, 1 singles, 2 singles, 1, 2, and 3 doubles. Gather, if all of them are going to go out at about the same time, first match of the day, you've got a whole set of courts, bring them all up and kind of give them the speech together before you send them out and hand them balls. And really, it's this number 5 in the handbook on page 6. They need to know no coaching is allowed. They know it, but they don't know it. So what I mean is, if they get in a tie-break situation, they cannot ask the players on the other courts. They cannot signal to the windows that they need a water. They can't come off the court and tell their friends that, you know, they need a ponytail holder. If they come off the court, they need to come directly to the tournament desk and do not talk to anybody. We do have a lot of people, they're trying to be helpful. I understand they're trying to be helpful. They're watching their players and their player needs water, or they forgot a banana, or whatever it happens to be. And they'll come to us and they'll say, my player needs X, Y, and Z. They can't talk to them. They can't signal to them. They can't do anything. No coaching is allowed. They need to make sure that they put all of their electronic devices on airplane mode. That includes Apple Watches. Let's see, 10-minute warm-up includes serves. So just remind them you have 10 minutes, because we're not going to have officials at this one. So you're not going to be able to patrol all the courts and yell at them that their time is up. But that, just remind them that it does include serves with their 10-minute warm-up. Matches are played to completion. We play 2 out of 3 regular sets. So with add at 6-all, it's a 7-point Coleman tiebreaker. If they split sets, it's a 10-point Coleman tiebreaker for in lieu of a 3rd set. A lot of our local areas do not play that match format. So please remind them that it's with add, that's a 10-point Coleman tiebreaker at the for split sets, and that they're playing it out. There's no time limit. Most of our clubs have a time limit, so a lot of the players are used to having a time limit. If their match takes 3 hours, well, we might shoot them, but it takes 3 hours. We let them play. We let them play it out. Just remind them of that, please.
Quick question.
Yeah.
If they're wanting to take a break between the 2nd set and the 3rd set tie break, it is only like a bathroom break. There is no more 10-minute breaks or anything like that, correct?
2 minutes.
They get 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay.
2 minutes.
Between all sets. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now it's they can take, technically, according to Friend at Court, they can take a bathroom break at any time. It does play into a little gamesmanship if they decide they're going to take a bathroom break at a really critical time. But technically, we cannot tell them they cannot take a bathroom break. So there also is no official time limit on, there's no official time limit on a bathroom break, because in some areas where some tournaments, the bathrooms are really far away from the court. So they don't want to tell you you've got 2 minutes and then it takes 5 minutes to walk to the bathrooms. So just beware. And if you'll hear the buzz if somebody is talking about somebody sitting in the bathroom, taking their time, trying to, you know, play games and not be good, and just use your best judgment as site directors on how to work with them to get them back on the courts. The Coleman tiebreak procedure is on the back of the championship regulations. I've also sent it to the captains in a PDF so that they can print it out. So they should have it. If for some reason they play a tiebreaker wrong and they come up to the desk and they say, this was our score, but we played it and this is how we played it and it was wrong, everything played in good faith stands. So you don't go back and replay it. And if they come to you and say they don't know how to play a tiebreaker, somebody from the tournament staff can go down and work with them. But if they've already played it, everything stands, it played in good faith. No new balls are given between the second and third set. Let's see. So when they get done playing, we need somebody from both teams. Remind them that the winning team and the losing team needs to send a player up to report scores. So you guys will have the clipboards with the scorecards. You, as site directors and volunteers, will be the ones to write on the scorecards. Don't let the captains write on the scorecards. So you'll ask them who wins, circle the team that wins, and then on the far right-hand side, there's a place to put the scores, whatever they happen to be. And then one player from each team will initial that those scores are right. When all lines have been played, the captains have 30 minutes to come up and look at them, make sure that they agree with everything that's on there, and sign the scorecards. After 30 minutes, they forfeit their right for any kind of appeal or any kind of deciding that it's incorrect. We have a new we have a new national suspension points system as of 2022 championship year, so starting September 1st. And what it is, any grievances that are upheld during the league year, any grievances that are upheld during a championship, or any code violations that are given at a championship automatically have suspension points assigned to them. And those suspension points can range from 1 to 10. And when a person gets 10 in a rolling year, they are suspended for 3 months. And then it just becomes longer and longer after that if you still have problems. So if you have somebody that is cursing, causing a problem, as site directors and championship staff, you can go on court, you code violate them, tell them it's a code violation, whatever it happens to be, unsportsmanlike conduct, and just let them know. Write down their name, write down the match number, write down the time, and let me know. And then I send it to national and they'll assign the points. It goes directly onto their account.
Okay, so it's no point penalty. The code violation is just the code violation points going to national?
It's both.
It's both?
Still, if you code violate them and give them a point penalty, that is also national suspension points.
Okay, so first code violation is 1 point?
Yes, point, game, and then match.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. The national suspension points have been put in place so that, say a player gets suspended in New England, they now cannot go to Florida and play. They can't go to New York and play, which has been happening. I don't know if it's been happening a lot, but it has been happening. So now it's a national system. And if you're suspended for USTA play, you're suspended from USTA play for whatever that time period is. I will get you guys the external documentation for the national suspension point system as well, just so you'll have it. You don't, if anybody asks you about it, you can show it to them. I'll make sure that that's a part of the ShowPad link.
Just to clarify, there's no warning. The first violation goes straight to a point penalty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed that.
Just a quick question on that. Is it the first violation that we observe? So like, for the most part, these are like, they're not officiated matches, right? So the player comes off and they say like, so-and-so is swearing. They wouldn't get a warning then, right? It would be after we go on the court and observe the match, or would, you know what I mean?
You would have to hear it or see it.
Okay.
To the code violation. The other option, we had an instance in one of the previous championships where other courts observed things, and what we did after the championship was we'll file agreements.
Okay, so it would be afterwards then. Okay.
Yeah, but anything you see, anything you hear, anybody comes to you, and they just make sure that you observe it or you see it, if you're going to code violate them. Yeah.
Okay.
Christy, is one of the, I remember when I was doing it a couple of years ago, there was a captain who was helping the player cheat. They, and basically in the end, when I talked to Heather about it, just to kind of confirm that, because it has happened, if there's somebody in the lobby coaching and we see them coaching, you actually can dock or kind of like code the player.
You would
Say
code the player in that quick case, yes.
You don't.
So
you-
in that
right.
in that case, John, you would tell them to stop coaching and that you're going to code violate their player, and then immediately go onto the court and code violate their player.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope that doesn't come up, but it it had.
Yeah. Every time I think I'm not going to be surprised by anything else, I get surprised by something.
How did the person react to that when you told them?
Yeah.
Did they
How-
react?
Yeah, how did they react, John? I mean, how'd you handle it?
So it happened after kind of like the fact. We basically took a letter. It was more, I want to say it occurred afterwards. So in other words, it was more of the, okay, next time this is how you do it. Basically, because the player, what ended up happening is the captain went down to the ladies' locker room. The player went into the bathroom, and they're kind of doing it like that. But we knew this after the fact. And then it was the other team went down there, and then they saw the captain. And so it wasn't like I saw it. It was, oh, the other captain was just in the bathroom coaching the player kind of thing. So it was that kind of effect where then we had the teams had to write letters and so forth. And I talked to Heather about it, but that's basically, I was like, well, how do I manage that? She's like, well, this is, if you see it, you basically have to tell them you'll code the player. And that's, I know in the juniors, it's the same way. Like if a rambunctious parent, you can tell the parent to either they leave, you can tell them to go, or you're going to code the player.
I think
You can also file a grievance against the captain afterwards too. It's the captain's part and parcel of it. So both the player and the captain can get point suspension points.
Yeah.
I thought did somebody raise their hand? I thought I saw a hand go up.
Oh, hi, Christy. This is Liza. Will we be asked to be on court at any point to officiate if any of the players on court felt that the other teams are not being fair on the line calls?
So if they come up and ask this question and ask you to step onto court, if the tournament desk has to be manned, so if you happen to be the only one there, you cannot leave. You can pick somebody from the crowd, a third, somebody that's not on either one of the teams, to go stand on court, but not for very long, 2 or 3 or 4 games. And it's not that person's job to call lines. The players still have to call lines. If there is a question and the person standing on court saw the ball clearly, they can confirm or deny whatever the call was. But these are still unofficiated league matches. They need to be adults and play their own. They need to call their own lines. So use your best judgment on that. Again, we've tried to make sure that there are at least 2 people at the desk at all times. But again, you're more than welcome to grab somebody that's sitting in the lobby to do that. Just make sure that they know also it's not their job to call, and you're not there to stay out for the whole match. So that's not part of anybody's job description.
But
Great, thank you.
Just to repeat what Christy said, these are unofficiated matches. They are responsible for calling them, just like during the local league season. There is no difference. And so a person out there, can confirm or deny if they're asked. But, they would confirm or deny a call made by the people on the court.
So, and along that lines, also remind the players that if they are, as they're playing, if there's anything that they disagree with, whether it's the score, it could be line calls, it could be where people were standing, just to give themselves 30, 45 seconds among the teams to work it out. If they cannot work it out in 30 to 45 seconds, one player from the match needs to leave their racket on the court and come to the tournament desk. That keeps things from really escalating and allows us to kind of step in and keep things moving so that it doesn't get super crazy. So we always try to tell them when we send them out, give them 30 to 45 seconds. Usually they can figure it out by then, but once in a while you have to go down on court and either figure out where the score is, or especially in Rhode Island, Charlie has problems.
Absolutely. One of the things about figuring out the score, the procedure on that is to find out what points you disagree on and replay those. That's the first thing you do. If you can't do that, then you pick it up from where it's agreed, where they have an agreement in the score. And if you can't figure out any of that and they disagree completely, you got to start all over again. The best way is obviously, where do you agree? One of the things when you go out there on a situation like that is that everybody wants to tell you their story. They like to tell you on it as you're walking back, behind the curtain, and they bother people out there. So what you need to do is to tell them, don't tell me anything. When you get out there, you're not out there to look for the story. You're out there to apply the procedure, because they already can't agree. So you don't need to hear that story. You just need to apply the procedure on something like that. The other thing is that if you're out there for line calls and you have a player out there who has a pattern of making bad line calls, you can code them. That's part of it. You are an official if you're working in a tournament, and you can code them for a pattern of bad line calls. And I had that happen to me too. It wasn't a Rhode Island team that did it, but it was in Rhode Island. Where we had a player just kept calling every ball out, making the other team, appeal to me on every ball. So finally, I told her, next time you do it, you're losing a point in addition to that ball. So that ended that. So there are things that you can do to get the situations under control like that.
I want to tell you guys too about some of those things, especially like score disputes, and what Charlie's saying is the procedure. If you get out there and you as a site director or staff don't remember, or because sometimes I was an official for a long time, and the first few times I did that, I got really nervous. If you tell them you're starting over, that's what you're doing. You are the site director and the tournament official. Whatever you tell them is what you're doing. And if they call me and they ask me about it, I'm going to say, that's what the site director told you. That's what you're doing. Okay, so know that you have that authority. Do not get worried about anything crazy. So the other one that is super vague is injuries. So in championships and tournaments where you have an official and you also have medical staff, athletic trainers, that's kind of what the friend at court is written for. So it's designated in between assessment time and treatment time. And the assessment time is when the athletic trainer comes out and asks you what hurts and what you're doing. The second an athletic trainer touches somebody is considered treatment time. That total amount of time is 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes. Because we don't have athletic trainers, and sometimes we have doctors, but they're usually players. We don't want them to be involved in that. You have time to see what's wrong. Do they twist their ankle? Are they having heat cramps? Did they fall? One of those things. And then whatever the treatment is 3 minutes. So you can use your best judgment on that. After 15 minutes, though, you've got to call it. They've got to retire. The only exception to that is if there is a blood issue and it takes longer than 15 minutes to clean up the blood. They don't have to retire as long as they can still play, because cleaning up blood takes a little bit longer and it's a little bit more involved. With injury or with medical timeouts, any player can take a medical timeout at any time for any reason. However, they can only take one medical timeout per type of injury. So if they have a cramp in their left calf and they take a medical timeout, they cannot later take a medical timeout for a cramp in their right calf. Cramp is a cramp. If they twist their right ankle, they twist their other ankle, that's the same thing. So again, use your best judgment. Most people don't know enough about medical timeouts to use them for gamesmanship, but I have seen it happen. There's no coaching during a medical timeout at all. That seems to be the theme of the call, is no coaching. And then just, again, also use your best judgment, as we're all human. And if you see somebody go down and is hurt, you go down on the court and check on them, and do your best to help them, with whatever knowledge that you have. So again, it's a very gray area, and whatever decision that you guys make that is right for that situation at that time will be backed up.
I was under the impression that for unofficiated matches, they have, no trainers, no doctor, anything like that. We go on the court and they have 3 minutes to decide if they can continue or not. So now we give them 15 minutes or something.
From the time it happens to the time they just no longer than 15 minutes from the time that you walk out there. So usually when I walk out there and I see whatever is happening, and if we're going to put ice on their ankle, I then tell them you have 3 minutes.
Okay.
And we're the only ones allowed to go out there.
That's correct.
Yeah, sometimes it can be difficult to keep everybody off the court. Somebody
Yeah,
goes
that's a
down
good
and
point.
they want to run out. You got to make sure that they don't do that. That it's somebody from the staff that goes out there.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into, I know you could what if these things to death, but I'm a member of a place in Farmington, Connecticut called Winding Trails. It's a lake. And the other day somebody had a seizure out on the dock, and they announced that the entire lake had to be cleared. Everybody had to get out of the water. And the ambulance came and dealt with the person. So I would think in this case, if God forbid somebody fainted on the court or something like that, you'd probably have to call all the matches in while the medical personnel deal with the injured party.
I've never had that situation.
That's what I'm saying. I just could see it's so hot. I've never seen that happen at the lake either. All of a sudden they announced everybody got out of the water just till they figured it out. And then 15 minutes later, everybody went back in the water.
Yeah, I've never had that either.
Yeah, let's hope it never happens. I'm just saying it's.
Yeah, and I've had, 911 come, and I didn't clear the courts.
Okay, so that didn't happen. Okay.
I don't know whether I was being wrong or not, but.
The emergency personnel would let you know anyway.
Yeah, Lynn, we've had that at FVRC, we've had it at other places, and it's not an issue for the other courts.
Okay, thank you.
You want to keep the matches moving.
I wonder if the water thing was so that they didn't have to worry about somebody else drowning.
If an EMT or something wanted you to get people out of the way, then that's when you would certainly.
I'd say the emergency personnel would tell you what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry to waste everyone's time. It just was such an odd occurrence. I just never saw that happen before.
No, we had something like this happen last year. We had a player that stumbled and went headfirst into a wall, and they were down flat on the court, and it does stop play on adjacent courts. They see their teammate down, they're concerned. We were lucky enough there was a doctor watching, so we did allow him to come onto the court because we were very concerned it was a serious injury. And he did end up medically retiring, but I think you've got to play it by issue. If it looks like a traumatic injury and you have capable medical personnel in the facility, I think it can be irresponsible not to take advantage of that when you're looking at a situation like that. I think we handled it appropriately for the situation we had, but if faced with the same situation again, I would absolutely do the same thing and have the doctor out on the court looking at this guy, because when he went down, it was scary. It was scary for everybody.
Yeah, Marianne, and I appreciate that. I would absolutely agree with that. What we don't want is everybody on their team crowding around them. But if there is somebody that is
Absolutely.
legitimately a medical person, EMT of some kind, whatever it happens to be, yeah, that is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to tell people, use common sense. And we trust all of you. Christy trusts all of you to, use good judgment and common sense. And, I think if you do that, you'll do the right thing. I think a point well taken, Marianne. I echo what Christy said.
All right, and back to some of the easy stuff. When you're calling matches, make sure you assign the home team a color on whether they're flip cards or whether they keep the balls for the scores. It helps the teams that are cheering them on know who's winning. Players get 3 brand new balls. Hand them the balls. Please don't let the cans and lids go out on the court. Assign even numbered matches, even numbered balls, and odds to odds. And then if they want warm-up balls, if it's long enough, further enough in the championship that you have a box of used tennis balls, if they have brand new ones, give them used 3s so that they know the difference between the 1s and the 3s. That's super crazy detail, but it just kind of helps keep things separated. Curtains are closed unless the club requires them to be open. So that rule was changed this year. It has been the opposite in the past. So make sure if they ask you the curtains are closed, it allows us to have fewer lets, and it lets the matches play a little bit faster because we don't have to worry about balls running on other courts.
So how do we know if the club requires them to be open? Will they be open when we get there, or do we just ask the club personnel?
I would ask them. Typically, I think they'll say, but yeah, just ask the club when you get there. Some of them are pinned open. They're permanently pinned open. Assign them a court, tell them to have a good time, and come back quickly. When you send them off, then on the lineup cards, you're going to write down the court number and the time that they went out. When they come back, after they're done playing, you write down the time. There's a little spot on the left-hand side to write down the time when they come back so that we can keep track of match times. They have to show IDs. What we've been doing is if the first time they play, they show an ID, and especially if you guys are working more than one day, you recognize them and you know them, and they have already showed their ID for their first match. They don't need it for their second match or their third match. You can use your best judgment on that. It makes it go a little bit faster if you don't have to check all the IDs for every match as the championship goes on. If a ball is lost during a match, you can replace it with a light ball. So if they're in the end of their second set, please use a used ball. If they are in their warm-up, use a brand new ball. And then once the captains have both signed the scorecard and all 5 lines have been played and it's done, then somebody from the site director or championship staff will enter everything into Tennis Link. And if anybody needs help on how to enter things into Tennis Link, please let us know. That's we can show you how. We can go through it with you. We're going to make sure everybody has access to that so that you can enter everything in Tennis Link. Let's see. That's also in the handbook.
Will the facilities have a computer available for us to enter, or do we need to bring something?
Yeah, if you could bring something, that would be great.
Bring a laptop if you have one.
Will it work off of an iPad?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and then you'll set up permission so we can have the ability to enter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, if a club has an issue with internet, or some of our clubs are really metal buildings and you get no service, you can take a picture of the scorecard and text it to me or to one of the other site directors, and we can enter it too. You don't have to worry about rain delays or lightning. Thank goodness. Not worried about those things.
Do we have your phone number?
Lists.
You should, I will make sure you guys have more than one phone number for me.
You can, if you want to put in the chat, that would be useful.
Okay, let me see. Okay.
Thank you.
Christy, sorry, I can't find the raised hand, but just jumping back one.
Mhm.
The password for the tennis link and the link for that, is that going to go to the site directors by email, or will it just be in the package that we'll have at the club?
Which to
Once,
record
once,
into-
you-
For
once
entering the
you,
scores into
Andrew,
tennis.
it'll be to your account and you'll log in just the way you normally do.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
think that has
It
changed.
changed in
Andrew.
the past. You're used to when, you know, there was something special set up in that no, they don't assign those anymore. And so now you'll use your own account.
Okay.
You're on mute.
There we go. There's a question in the chat. No, you cannot do last minute subs. The people who are on the lineup at the 30-minute mark are the people who are required to play the matches no matter what. There's no changing, there's no subbing, unless somebody gets hurt during the warm up.
Sorry, just wanted to clarify that. This is Laura Boysen, sorry. If they have forgotten their ID, it's in the car, I left it at the hotel, I'm so sorry, there's no time to go back and get it. They're on the lineup already. How is that dealt with?
So we can use a picture if they've got a picture of it, or if somebody can email them or send them a picture. Otherwise, it ends up being a default. We cannot put somebody else in that line.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
thank you.
What I would say, Laura, is use your judgment, right? I mean, you know, and I'll give you an example. So they're there and say, hey, do you have your phone? Oh, yeah. And you know, the phone is going to probably say their name right there if you went to settings. So, you know, I think there are ways to handle it. Typically, one way that I've done in the past, gee, I left my ID in the car, right? Okay, we're going to mark it on the scorecard. When you come off the court, go to your car, bring it back, and I'll uncheck it here. So I think you got to use your judgment on that.
Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
We really do just want to make sure that the person who's listed is the person that's playing. So however you can make that happen is fine. Yeah. Passports, we've had people use passports in the past as well. I know we're kind of running over, so I'm gonna roll through this. Those of you guys know that adult 18s, we run the 3-strike DQ report every few minutes. So matches are not official until the 3-strike report is run, and there are no disqualifications for that match. So that typically makes an impact on finals, but it can make an impact the rest of the time. So only self-rated players and appeal players would be impacted by this. So if you have teams that are all computer-rated players, they're not going to be impacted. But this is something that can cause a lot of distress if somebody does get their 3rd strike during a championship, because their matches are reversed. So at that point, if you want one of us to step in to talk to them, please let us know. It can be very upsetting. I do think most of the captains who have self-rated players know. We went over it on the captains meeting. They should understand, but we do have some new captains this year, so it might be a little bit different. Pete, do you or Charlie have something that would be more helpful than that with 3-strike DQs?
Yeah, make Christy handle it. No, I'm only kidding. You know, in Rhode Island generally, I mean, that's awfully tough for a site director to try and handle in the middle of putting out matches and taking scores and all of that stuff. So I usually say, you know, if there's a 3-strike DQ, I would prefer to contact the captain myself and talk to them and let them know, and just take the burden off the site director. I mean, if you get two people at a club, and I mean, that can take a long time to have those discussions, and it can be really distracting. So that's what that's what I would prefer that we do, and we do for that. Just let me handle it. You guys got enough going on.
Yeah, I gotta let the captain know. We'll put the documentation together as quickly as possible and email it to the captain and player. I mean, the reason for making it as quickly as possible and why I would contact perhaps the site director to tell a captain is if there's another match coming up, they need to know as soon as possible in case they're planning on playing that person again. Or, if we really delayed it, they end up playing them and get an additional match reversed, which would make them very unhappy, even more unhappy. Hopefully we don't have any or very few.
So, and then the rest of it basically is once, all the matches are complete, just kind of put everything together. If there's a designated place that the club would like for you to put it, or if they'll let you put it under the table for the next day, then, just make sure it's neat and clean, and set up the chairs and pick up any trash. We're trying to get the players to do that too. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. At the end of the last day, I'm going to touch base with all the clubs in the districts to find out what we can do to get whatever is left over back to the section staff. That hasn't really been determined at this point, but we will let you know before Sunday or Saturday for those of you who are finishing up on Saturday. So I'll let you guys know about that. And so that's kind of the gist. What other questions do you guys have?
I just want to mention that sometimes situations that happen that the spectators will come to the tournament desk to say, hey, that person is foot faulting or that person is making bad calls and they want us to go and do something. It's the players on the court that have to come upstairs and complain about that we're not going to do anything because they just came, the spectator came to us to do something.
Yes, that is. And that does happen quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I have one quick thing. Like, does that, for those who are experienced, like the woman that just mentioned that was very helpful. Is there any other experiences, very briefly, that people could relay? That's something we might not have thought of. This is my first time as a volunteer, but I have played in districts myself, but I've never been at the tournament desk. I've been in districts a number of times though as a player.
I've always found like captains, like especially if we end up falling behind schedule, captains appreciate information, and I usually caveat it with, just so you're aware, I can call you once we're within 30 minutes of your call time, but yes, we do appear to be running a little bit late. Just because players get themselves psyched up to play and they kind of have a routine and they want to know like when I should start that routine. So, I mean, like I said, caveat it, but usually captains appreciate that kind of, if they come and say, are you on time? Are you running late? Does it look like we're going to go out on time? I find being forthright with that and establishing a good relationship with the captains generally makes the tournament run smoother.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just make a comment, because I think that was excellent, Marianne. Don't forget, part of our job at the tournament desk is to try to make this the best player experience that we can. Now they've got to take personal responsibility, but we have a role in, trying to have them have a good player experience. So we've got to enforce rules, but how we do it and, how we move things along can either detract from that player experience or enhance it. So I guess if you keep that in the back of your mind and apply common sense, you're probably always going to make the right decision.
Yeah, the other thing that I think most captains appreciate, especially if they're traveling from outside of the area, at the end of the day, they want to know, where can we go get dinner? You know, so literally, that's what they want to know. Where's good to eat? You know, especially if they're staying at a hotel. So if you can give them a list of, well, if you want this kind of food, you can go here. If you want this kind of food, go to this place. You and rattle off 3 or 4 places. They come back the next day. They're like, oh my God, that place was so great. Thank you so much. You know, they want to know where to feed their team at the end of the day.
And make sure you guys have fun. You guys are also supposed to have fun. So, you know, if you've been sitting there all day and you need to take a break and go drive around or walk around the building, make sure you do that too. Just, you know, talk to each other, but have fun. It's, you know, the captains and the players do like to come up and chat and talk. And I think everybody missed the 1 year, you know, the COVID year that we didn't have championships. And it's just been really great to see everybody back out on the court. So, you know, they have some fun with it and enjoy yourselves, and don't get stressed out about anything. It's fun.
And Lynn, you shouldn't get stressed at all because all of our site directors are very experienced. So just lean on your site director and they'll take care of the issues.
All right, well, I'm gonna turn everybody loose then, except White District. If you guys will stay with me for just a few minutes, I'm actually gonna stop the recording. Thank you guys again so much. This was great. I put my number in the chat, but you can also email me and I can email back your my other phone. I've got 2 phone numbers that you can get me on. So please feel free to call, email, text. Let me know if you need anything at all.
Great meeting, Christy. Good job.